What's going on? It's Trending Story. If it's your first time here and you want to find out new facts that will definitely make you smarter and more well informed, make sure to subscribe and active the notifications bell so you don't miss anything.
At 2001, the unthinkable happened. Word spread that a lioness in Kenya's Samburu Reserve had taken an antelope calf alive and was guarding it as her own. I couldn't believe my ears when I first heard about the adoption. I just thought that, that's absolute nonsense. Give it a few hours and that lioness will definitely eat that calf. Saba Douglas Hamilton is wildlife conservationist for the Save the Elephants Trust. She rushed to the reserve to see for herself the lioness and the baby oryx antelope, and one of the oldest animal bonds ever seen. And all of a sudden, there was this completely unheard of situation on our hands of a predator that had adopted as prey. She was named Shemin Yak, meaning the Blessed One. I think many people felt that this was seen as it had been a message from God. This was a miracle. This was the lion and the lamb laying down together. And Shemin Yak really seemed to be infatuated by the baby. So they'd walk together and flop down under a tree and curl up next to each other. It was very moving to watch. But what seemed like a touching story was actually a deadlock, which kept a solitary lion from hunting. A starving calf from its milk Shemin Yak had done the unimaginable. Instead of eating the baby oryx she had encountered, she adopted it. How coming out got it? I can only speculate that are calves trained by their mothers and have a very strong instinct just to lie low in the grass and rely on their camouflage to protect them from predators. So it's likely that as his mother wandered off to feed, it was just hidden in a clump of grass. And she may have just stumbled across it or sniffed it out, but it was very hungry. We saw it trying to nibble on branches. At one point, it was even suckling on company ox ear. For days, the calf wandered looking for its herd while the lioness followed. Of course, every oryx it saw was potentially its mother and potentially food and life, so it would constantly try and rejoin adult oryx. Well, Shemin Yak would allow it to go a certain distance away, but as soon as it started to move off with the oryx, she was then up on the warpath. And of course, the other oryx saw this lioness coming for them and would flee. And the baby ran as much as they could, and then it just got exhausted and stopped, and she took it back again. What would drive a predator to defy her instincts and endanger her own life? We were just so flummoxed by this odd pairing of Shemin Yak and the oryx that I wrote her a lot of people I wrote to, all of the line experts I could think of to try and get some kind of balanced view about what was happening. One of those experts was Craig Packer of the Serengeti Lion Project. By email, Sarah shared with him the story of Shemin Yak. She'd only recently separated, which is the way it sounds in the story. She still would be kind of reeling from the experience of no longer having the companionship for the rest of her prime. What we think happened was that she actually went through quite a traumatic loss. Very sudden traumatic loss. And this clicked a switch in her head that just sparked this obsessive compulsive behavior. So that when she came across this baby oryx, instead of seeing food, she saw a baby. Promise being a solitary lion is that you are all by yourself in a world surrounded by groups of lions, and they're going to kill you. So if by misfortune the female ends up on her own, she lives a life of utter terror because she has to figure out how she's going to get from A to B without being spotted, how she's going to feed herself without being discovered in a vulnerable situation by her neighbors. I think that in her state of mind, she's likely to be very frightened and very nervous, and I think that she found something that distracted and soothed her. Days became weeks. Shemin Yak displayed little in the way of predatory tendencies toward the calf, and the pair showed no sign of separating. That we were caught so up in the bubble of this miracle that none of us really thought about the most obvious thing, which was that the other predators would be lurking around to make a meal of the calf if they got the chance. We followed Shemin Yak and the oryx down to the river. We're really pleased to see them going there because it was the first time that they drank in several days. But of course, the river is an absolute haven for predators. It's where they lie and wait to ambush prey. And even if you have a lioness as a protector, it's no guarantee that you're safe. So when Shemin Yak moved back up to the bank and flopped down in the shade, she let the calf wander out of her sight for a few seconds. A huge male lion leapt out of the bushes and grabbed it. She was clearly terrified of the man lion, but she acted exactly as if she was a mother losing her cub. She wouldn't leave the scene, and she was almost like this anguish, but you could feel her desperate to try and save her calf, but unable to take on an adult male lion. When the oryx eventually died, the next day she went out immediately. She killed a big calf and fed herself. So she was totally functional in terms of being a predator. It's just that she didn't equate food with the baby oryx. But her old obsession was not over. Within a month, Shimonyak had adopted another oryx calf. After this first incident coming out, actually adopted 5 or 6 calves, but none of them lasted as long as the first. Shimonyak's relationship with the calves she had adopted was not quite that of a friend or even a parent. I think she's more like a jailer in that she's just controlling this animal. She's keeping it close by. It's something that's very harmless and inoffensive, but she obviously felt very strongly for it. I mean, in her mind, this was her baby. And I think if she had her own cubs and looked after them with that same kind of intensity, she probably would have starved them along with herself. In the wild, a bond between an antelope and a lion cannot last, but it tells of the animal's ability to feel complex emotions. It was really charming to see them together. It was like something out of a fairy tale, that you had the calf and the lioness walking side by side, and there was a real sort of intimacy between them. At another similar incident, carrying lion saves calf from being killed by another lion in an amazing act of kindness. Alone and affrighted, a gangly calf wanders on a forlorn journey to find its missing mother, and straight into the powerful clutches of a prowling lion. What happens next has become a wildlife wonder. The African savanna's most powerful hunter turns into a gentle, doting pussycat, and ready to fight with its life to protect its adopted offspring from rival big cats. Footage of the incredible encounter between the king of the beasts that its favorite prey has amazed animals lovers the world over. Over 4 dramatic minutes, a running camera shows how the powerful lion first hunts down the wandering wildebeest calf and then, once in its clutches, displays amazing tenderness. As the calf bleats, the lion, most probably a young male, nuzzles the youngster's head, puts a huge paw on its shoulders but resists any urge to kill. Even when the lion opens its powerful jaws and gently mouths the calf, not once does it clasp them shut with what would be deadly force. At a final act of empathy with the youngster, the lion becomes its savior. When a rival lioness appears on the scene, the big cat turns protector, putting its own life at risk to save the baby antelope. What happens when the film starts running has become something of mystery, with commentators arguing over the reasons why such an unusual bond across natural boundaries was forged and what eventually happened to this calf. Theories put forward include the lion was simply keeping the calf as food, having earlier killed its mother, to more optimistic hopes that the youngster survived the encounter. Surprisingly, such acts of unlikely altruism in the world of lions is not unknown. Photographer Adrie de Visser shot amazing footage of a lioness with a baby gazelle in 2012 that went on to become an internet classic. He was filming a lion hunt in Uganda when the lioness appeared to adopt the orphan calf of a mother antelope she had just killed and eaten. A decade before, African newspapers celebrated the story of a lioness who took on the role of a great aunt to 3 oryx calves in Kenya's Samburu National Park. In one case, the lioness would allow the calf's mother to feed her offspring several minutes a day before resuming her guardian duties. In the way that the adoptions had all taken place on significant dates, Christmas Day, Valentine's Day, and Good Friday, that intrigued the local press. The lioness was said to have been fiercely protective of her adopted oryx calf and was said to be stricken with grief when one of them was eaten by a male lion. At the time, conversationist Dr. Dame Daphne Sheldrick told the BBC, "It does happen, but it's quite unusual. Lions, like all the other species, including human beings, have this kind of feeling for babies."
Thanks for watching. Please like and share the video in social networks. We'll be right back to you as fast as we can.